What is going on, traders? Happy Friday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. But as usual, I'm going to let you guys know exactly how it went for me trading wise. So let's jump right into it. And as you guys can see from the screen, right, it was another red day on the account, right? So this week has been a very red week for me, right, overall. In terms of how I did trading wise, I was down 115 on SQs and I was up $13 on TQs today, right? So I finished down almost $100 or a little more than $100. So, in terms of my loss today, I'm okay with that. I did a good job of managing risk, but as far as where I think I went wrong, I'm going to go ahead and explain that to you guys, right? So let's jump right into it. And so, the market was pretty much consolidating and trading sideways after what ended up happening yesterday, right? And so as you guys can see, we ended up rallying, right? Ended up pulling on back. And then what ended up happening during the pre-market session, we were consolidating, trading sideways, right? And as soon as the market opened, what actually ended up happening? You guys will be able to see, right, that at 6:30, right, we actually ended up peaking out and then starting to sell off. And so once we actually started to peak out here, I started to get into TQQQ because of the fact that I thought that once we rallied, right, and pulled on back, and started to consolidate, there was definitely a chance we could start to rally at least back up to the resistance and try to test it again, right? And so that's exactly why I got into TQs as soon as I saw it start to push up, right? As soon as market opened. But as you guys can see, this thing ended up changing direction very quickly. It got rejected. I wasn't anticipating it to pull back as hard as it did, right? It ended up pulling back all the way to the bottom VWAP, tested the previous support, right? Validated it, and before it finally was able to make the push that I thought was going to happen, right? But by then I already put myself in a hole by, not doing, or by trying to force too many TQs trades to try to predict when it was going to finally start to actually push up. But like I said, it actually ended up pulling back a lot more than I thought, so I dug myself in a hole. And then once it started to push up, I would buy in, right? It ended up pulling on back here, and I actually ended up giving back profit here, but as soon as it started to pick back up, I would buy back in, right? And so I started to ride this thing up and I was doing a decent job of it. But what actually ended up happening, we pulled on back yet again, right? To pre-market supports, right? And so we ended up testing the support yet again. And before we ultimately changed directions once more and finally recovered and made new highs on the day, right? So it was definitely a roller coaster day today. If you didn't do a good job of locking in profits, then once direction changed, right, it could have definitely gotten you. And so my biggest loss today came from this actual trade right here. So I did a good job of riding the momentum up, but as soon as this thing pulled on back and started to pick back above the EMA, right, I got in into a fully sized position. But what actually ended up happening, it got rejected, started to sell off, and once this thing broke below the EMA, there was lots of selling pressure and I cut losses. And I took a big hit, right? I thought this thing was going to find its support and continue to go up. But, once more, it eventually pulled on back pretty heavy, right? More than I was even anticipating before it finally changed directions. And so, lots of quick direction changes and I wasn't able to do the best job. I wasn't able to get it done today, right? But at the very least, I managed my risk, right? I probably took a 0.33% loss, right? In terms of what I was trading with and my account size, so it's not the end of the world. But as far as how me and my brother did trading wise this week, we were down 4%, right, this week, actually a little bit more. So a $1,200 loss because of that, since we were trading with 30K. So one of our worst weeks right in a while, and it definitely sucks, especially because we have recently scaled, and the dollar amount hurts more, but also because of the fact that we try to be consistent every day, right? And it's consistency that really matters. And as of lately, we haven't really been very consistent, right? So we're going to see how trading goes next week for us. But, if it doesn't go the best again, then we may decide to actually scale back down, right? We just want to make sure we're putting ourselves in a position to succeed, right? And if we see we're not doing good with a big dollar amount, then why not use a smaller dollar amount, right? So that if I do take more losses, they're not as expensive, and so I'm saving myself money, right? In a way, you can see it like that. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in today's video, right? It's these red weeks really happen to pretty much every trader at some point in their career, right? And so it's important that we bounce back from this, right, and make sure that next week we're implementing good habits, right? Making sure we're managing our risk and buying in only when it makes sense, right? You guys even know from all the field orders I have, I could definitely do a better job of not over trading, right? And keeping it more simple, buying in and sizing up only when I have confirmation, right? And then once, I do see a lower low, right? That's definitely a better confirmation. I start to see these lower highs and these lower lows, right? Then it makes sense to potentially size in. But when I'm sizing into areas where it's choppy, right, and it's not really choosing which way it wants to go, that's where I really dig myself in a hole, and that's where I really need to work on. But that's pretty much everything, as I mentioned, that I wanted to cover in today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and your support. Always, it really means a lot. But I hope you guys were all able to end your week on a green note, and I really do hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your weekend. So take care, and we will see you guys in Monday's recap. Take care.